Hello, everyone, and welcome to Slash Film Daily for March 12th, 2019. This is Slash Film Editor-in-Chief, Peter Sciretta. And on today's podcast, we're going to bring you another Captain Marvel special. This is going to be an interview special. I'm going to play for you my interviews from the Captain Marvel junket. I talked to producer Kevin Feige, and I talked to the directors of the film, Boden and Ryan Fleck. But first, we're going to play our interview with Kevin Feige, the head of Marvel Studios. I talked to him about a variety of things, from the end credit scene for Infinity War to if Captain Marvel was going to be in that movie, how Carol's powers don't break the MCU, Stan Lee's tribute and cameo, the whereabouts of Goose, why hasn't Nick Fury used that pager before Infinity War, and the upcoming Marvel television shows planned for Disney Plus streaming service. All that and more are in this interview. If you have not watched Captain Marvel, do not listen to this interview because it has spoilers. So here is my interview with Marvel Studios head Kevin Feige.
What's in the goodie bag? I don't take up too much time.
Nothing cool. A doll that I'm going to give to a friend's kid.
No, you can keep it. Don't be shy. Keep it.
Normally we ask you about all these things in the future, and I know this time you really can't answer a lot, so I'm going to start in the past.
Okay, good.
When I was on the set of Infinity War, the directors said that Captain Marvel was in the movie, and then months later they said that she wasn't. So I'm wondering, was there originally a part that she was had some kind of appearance in Infinity War?
In Infinity War?
Yeah.
No.
No?
No, because we made those movies at the same time together, that might have been what they were referring to.
Okay.
Because we did, it was all the same thought process going on, but she was never in the movie.
Originally, if I'm correct, Infinity War didn't have an after-credits sequence. Is that correct?
You mean in the early days of planning it?
I thought I had heard that originally a test screened without any end credits.
Well, we often don't put the tags on in test screens. If that's what you heard. In fact, we rarely do. I think we did in the last one or two screenings of Infinity War put it on there. And same thing with the tags on Captain Marvel. The first 3 or 4 test screenings we didn't put it on yet. Because you want to focus on the movie, not the tag.
Well, I was going to ask you if that tag came later in the process. How did that... Because that device, the pager, becomes a big part of this movie.
Yeah.
How did that come about?
Same time. We were developing the movies at the same time. We were shooting the movies at the same time. And not in the same place. Because as you know, Infinity War was Atlanta and this was Los Angeles. But it was an idea early on to link them and to link the characters of Captain Marvel and Nick Fury sort of through that span of time with a 90s device.
Yeah.
So it was something that was pitched to both teams to basically say you have to integrate a pager, and both teams are so talented and great they turn it into this very emotional connection between movies, so much so that when you see watch Captain Marvel with an audience, when that pager comes out, people go, oh, that's it. That's when she gave it. That's when it first appeared.
Is this the case that that end credit scene shot by the Russos during production?
Yes. Yeah. Of Infinity War?
Yeah.
Yes.
By the end of this movie, Carol is unchained, and we kind of see the possibilities of her powers. Mm-hmm. Maybe not the extent, but we see that she's very powerful.
Yes.
I'm not a video gamer, but a lot of my friends who play video games, they say there's this thing called power creep that when there's somebody that's...
Johnson plays video games.
That's true.
So I'm wondering...
What's power creep? They just keep getting stronger and stronger?
I've actually never heard that before, but I guess it's...
Your game has made that up.
Yeah, when you get too far along and someone's so overpowered.
I see.
So I'm wondering, how is she going to exist in the future of the cinematic universe when she can, take out,
Well, the point of this movie was to see her, exactly as you said, unleashed, unchained. Yeah. What happens when she taps into her full potential, not being held back. So it was not the time to hold back. It was not the time to emphasize limitations or flaws. We'd seen that over the course of the rest of the movie. We wanted to see her cut loose. And in future stories, somebody asked me this earlier, and I said, well, none of the Marvel characters are immortal. even ones that seem immortal, but perhaps are just very long-lived. Some people might be very hard to kill, but nobody's unkillable. So if we're lucky enough to see future adventures with Captain Marvel, of course there will be limitations, and there will be Achilles' heels, and there will be things that we learn and see that it's not as easy as slicing through whatever she wants to at any point. But this wasn't the time to accentuate that.
Can you talk about how the Stan Lee tribute came about?
We've been thinking for a number of years, very rarely and not that often, what would we do if? What would we do when? And had certainly hoped it would be in decades from now. But that the films themselves are the tribute. The films themselves are are what we work so hard on to do right by his creations and the creations of all of his collaborators and co-creators. And because Captain Marvel is the first one since his passing, we wanted to kick the movie right away off with a tribute that feels celebratory as opposed to mournful. Because certainly, it seems to us, and we've been told by people close to Stan, that he didn't want people mourning or being sad. He wanted to celebrate, and that was something that came together soon after he passed. And our visual development group did all those beautiful sketches at the top of it, and then of course we put in all the cameos. And even if you I don't know how many times you've seen it, but there's even some B-roll of him with our cast and our filmmakers. It's not just clips from the movies in that logo. Yeah,
and his cameo in that. By the way, that's fantastic. And his cameo in this is great because this is the first time he's playing him, right?
He's himself in 1995 reading a script.
Yeah,
practicing lines.
How did that come about?
That was the idea. That was the idea a long time ago when the script was coming together. How do we integrate 1995 Stan? And the idea and while making this movie and developing this movie, we sort of had lists of everything that happened in every year of the early 90s. And his cameo in Mallrats was a big one.
Yeah.
So I don't remember exactly who had the idea.
I think it was Ryan and Anna.
Anna and Ryan had the idea. Yeah, that he was looking at a Mallrats script, and I spoke to Kevin Smith, and we got his sign off on it.
I'm wondering what has Goose been doing like the last 20 years. Like, can we get like a short film on like Disney Plus where we like see that Goose was like secretly off screen in all these important events?
I love it. By the way, that's one of the fun things about Disney Plus is we could actually do ideas like that. The fun thing about introducing new characters in all these movies is suddenly going from a character that maybe you'd heard of if you'd read the books, but if you hadn't, you'd never heard of them, had never heard of them, and then you see the movie and you go, I want to see more of that character. Yeah. And the fact that you and other people are asking, when do we see more of the cat? So the question is, what is the lifespan of a flurkin? It's a good question. We know
I was just wondering that earlier today because a cat is 15 years.
That's a cat.
The goose would be dead, but like
flurkins might be longer lived, and as we know from the comics, flurkins procreate quite a bit. They're I don't want to say Tribble-esque, but there's sort of points in those comics where they sort of are in terms of how many appear. So I'm sure there are more flurkins out there. And is Goose out there? He could be.
If Goose is out there...
She could be.
Or if she's out there right now, is she still in that same cat body?
Isn't that a flurkin body? Or do you think
I don't know.
Flurkins inhabit...
I thought they inhabited, but maybe...
Did they get into that? I think that's just...
I thought they were...
Peter's always going deep.
Yeah.
I think flurkins look like cats. Coincidentally, looks like cats.
Yeah, but they are not cats.
I don't think they can... I don't think they're parasites that alien-esque, Geiger-esque parasites.
I just assumed she was hiding in the cat, but maybe that makes sense. Does
where do all those the question is where do the Kree go? They all fit. They fit in her body. Do you know the answer to that?
I don't.
They're pocket universes in Flurkin's
This is the key to
body.
Phase 5.
The pocket universe of the Flurkin.
I have my nitpicky question I got to ask you.
I'm ready.
Why? And I know you probably have an answer for this. why did Nick Fury not use the pager until Infinity War? Because, like, giant, like, this big hole opened up in the sky and aliens came to New York City. Why not?
Well, I'd say two things. One, she does say it's got to be real emergency. Right?
Yeah. So that was just the city. I guess that's not the world.
The other thing I'd say is, how do you know he never hit it? How do you know he never pushed it before? We've never seen him push it before. That doesn't mean he never did.
Good answer. The Skrulls, I think everybody was assuming that this was going to head towards Secret War.
Secret Invasion.
Or Secret Invasion, sorry. But they're kind of left off in this movie as kind of the good guys. And we have a relationship with them now. So does that mean we can't eventually get there, or?
I don't think it means that at all. I think it means that the Skrulls are as diverse and multi-layered as any other intelligent life form, certainly like humanity itself, and we happen to see good ones. I think there are probably bad ones out there as well, like there are with any fully realized characters. But yes, the idea certainly was to subvert the expectation of the pointy-eared green aliens and Ben Mendelsohn, and even subverting people's assumption that Ben Mendelsohn would be playing the villain.
Yeah,
which everybody did.
That was great.
And
He's so great.
And we never said anything either way. We just let that narrative spin because he had been cast so often as the heavy, and he can play the heavy. He can play the good guy. I thought he just did tremendous work in and out of that makeup, performing that movie.
I have one last question.
Yeah, of course.
Last time I talked to you, I asked about Disney Plus, and at that point, it had just been announced, and you were like, "Yeah, we're talking with them." And now there's been some announcements and stuff. I'm wondering, like, are you going to be taking like a Star Wars expanded universe take on this? Like, are they going to be prequels, or how are they going to fit in?
Well, obviously, I don't want to get too specific. We've announced the Loki series and Tom Hiddleston's involvement. But it will be MCU proper. Sometimes it will take place, as Captain Marvel did, in a time before current events. Sometimes it will take place during. But I will say, whatever happens in those shows and with characters that have been in the films, they'll undergo transformations. Not Loki necessarily, but will undergo transformations in their series, and those transformations will be reflected in their next film appearances. Because we've been developing long-form narrative stories for Disney Plus at the exact same time that we've been developing a post-Endgame MCU, we've been able to do something we've never done before, which is interweave them, from the start, from the plan. So it's pretty exciting to be 10 plus years into the MCU and have an entirely new outlet to tell stories with new characters, with existing characters, and the way we like to do 90s action movie, geopolitical thrillers, heist movies. You heard us talk about this all the time. Now we get to play with the medium even more in a multi-episode arc, which we're excited about.
Very cool. I'm very excited for that.
Good.
Thank you, Kevin.
Good seeing you as always.
Yeah.
I'll see you at Disneyland.
Yes.
So there you have it. Next up is my interview with the directors of this film, Ryan Fleck and Anna Boden, the directing team. We geeked out over the genius of Ben Mendelsohn. We talked about the tightrope of making a prequel, choosing a kick-ass 90s soundtrack, and the choice to change Goose's name from the comics, and also, that Stan Lee cameo and more. Here's the interview with Ryan Fleck and Anna Boden.
Just eat some cookies.
How's it going?
I really enjoyed the film.
Thanks.
Went on set, we talked to Ben Mendelsohn, and he was in character.
He was Ben Mendelsohn.
Yeah, and he was just incredible then, and then seeing him in the movie, he's just insane. Like, can you talk about working, like, how much of that is in the script? How much of that is him improvising on set?
It's mostly in the script. I mean, I'm not trying to just protect our writing here by saying this. I think what Ben does so well is he takes your words and makes it feel like it's coming out of his brain for the first time. And that's what we learned when we did our last movie with him. And when we had a shapeshifter in this movie, we said, we got a guy.
He can actually shapeshift. His name's Ben Mendelsohn. Exactly. Yeah. He will never do your words the same way twice. So every time is fresh, and sometimes that means that he takes a wild ride on his way to finding what it's going to be. But it's always so much fun to watch. Mm-hmm. Brings some energy.
That must give you a lot of choices in the editing.
Too many.
It does. It gives you a lot of choices in the edit room, but sometimes it's just obvious. Like, you get a take and you're just like, oh, yeah, that's obviously the right thing. But I think it also is just such a gift to the other actors, because it helps them to feel like they're not just doing the same thing 8 bazillion times, and he gives it to them off screen too. He makes everybody better.
He's a very sensitive actor. It's really nice. He's completely wild and crazy seeming, but then super giving as well. And I remember Bree responding to stuff he was doing off camera and saying, "Thank you, that was amazing. Thank you so much." And it was just awesome to watch.
One of the things I love about this film is it's a prequel that doesn't fall into the traps of other prequels. I feel like other prequels try to explain too much about the things that happen, in the other films. And you do explain some things, but it's always not in the most expected way. Can you talk about the walking that kind of tightrope?
I guess, I don't know exactly how to answer that question. I guess we started with just, this is going to be 1990s pre-Avengers, pre-Iron Man world, where we meet a young Nick Fury who hasn't seen it all, and he's actually seeing it for the first time. And Captain Marvel gets to be his guide on his way to understanding that there are just much bigger threats out there, and it's a much wider universe than he had imagined. And so we started with that, and then it was really just the fun of seeing this character who's a little bit different than you've ever seen him before. And so the little kind of tiny little things that tie together, they were more ways to fit a puzzle piece together, but they didn't necessarily come at the beginning. They might have come in the middle, wouldn't it be fun if we, now that we have this structure, would it be fun if we kind of wink to this or wink to that? And just, obviously some things were done better. There were some connections made better than others, but,
I think you guys did a good job, because I feel like there's a version of this movie where it's Nick Fury meeting Coulson for the first time, and it's those beats, and I feel like most of them are done very well.
Probably hats off to Kevin Feige and Jonathan Schwartz, who helped lead us through a lot of that, connecting the MCU.
Goose is in the comics, but he or she has a different name. Why did you decide to change it to Goose?
We just wanted it to feel more specific to a nostalgia for Carol, and to feel more specific to her 80s background on Earth, we live in a very present Star Wars world right now, and it just felt like Chewie was maybe just more present than we needed it to be.
Feels contemporary now. It feels contemporary again. At the time the comics were written, it was a throwback, and it was a throwback to a very specific idea and character choice for Carol. And now it's contemporary, it's present. It doesn't have the same cultural meaning, I think.
In terms of references, there was one I wanted to ask you about. In the blockbuster, a standee gets blown up that's True Lies, I think. Is there any reason why you guys picked True Lies? Or just...
People keep thinking that we hate Arnold Schwarzenegger or something. It's not the case at all. It's just we were kind of okay, so we have to very quickly tell our audience where and when we've landed, and it's okay, what better to say mid-90s Earth than a blockbuster with VHS tapes and an Arnold Schwarzenegger Sandy.
But yeah, I mean, I worked in a Blockbuster in '95, so that was really part of my memory. But also, we really wanted to use the mask, which would have been fun to have, like, the green Jim Carrey, you know?
Oh, yeah.
But that studio didn't let us use it. I don't know if I'm supposed to say that, but I'm saying it. They tell me to shut up if
No, that's completely fine.
Okay, good.
Yeah, you're insulting another studio, not this studio. It's fine. How did you guys choose the songs? Because this soundtrack is such a great '90s throwback soundtrack. How do you decide upon the songs that made it?
You know, some of the songs were there from the beginning and were just part of our idea for what the tapestry of the music would be, and then some of them we discovered along the way. You know, the song in the fight scene at the end.
Yeah.
It was a lot. We probably tried like 200 songs in that place before we arrived on what we did, and it seems like the most obvious choice.
Yeah.
But, like, still somehow we kind of, like, went around to come back to that song. So, you know, and it was...
And you're talking about No Doubt?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay. You were trying to be coy about it? Or?
Oh, was I?
Oh, no,
I didn't say the song name, but I was just making sure I knew.
Yeah,
exactly.
that's the one. That came in very last minute. It was just like, well, we've been avoiding one song, everybody. That's just...
Because, like, in a way, like, you're like, does it hit the exact right tone of, like... You know,
yeah.
It's kind of on the nose, but, like, there's a certain playfulness and charge to it. And so we were kind of, you know, like, you know, it took us a while to come around to.
Yeah. Peter, to wrap this up with one more.
Stanley's cameo in this movie is so great because it's him playing him for once. Can you tell me how did that come about? Because I talked to Kevin. He said it was your ideas.
Yeah. The script he's reading?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was, I mean, we first had the idea that he should be on in that train for that moment. You know, it seemed like sure, her being suspicious that he might be a Skrull would be a fun way to introduce Stan. But then, what is he doing? What's he going to be doing? He can't just be riding the train, like listening to Walkman or something. What's he going to do and say? And then we thought, well, what was he doing in '95? And then Mallrats came about, and we were like, oh, he's practicing his lines for Mallrats. Let's give him a Mallrats script.
It's so brilliant.
Yeah.
Well, thank you guys so much.
Thank you so
I
much.
appreciate it.
Nice.
And that brings us to the end of today's episode of Slash Film Daily. You can find more of my work at slashfilm.com and at Slash Film on all social media. Slash Film Daily is published every weekday on iTunes, Google, Overcast, Spotify, all the popular podcast apps. Please feel free to send us your feedback, questions, comments, concerns to us at peter@slashfilm.com. That's peter@slashfilm.com. And please head on over to our iTunes page. Give us a 5-star review. Write us a sentence or two. It means a lot. Tell your friends. Spread the word. And we will see you tomorrow.